styles make matches. We've heard that phrase being thrown around a lot of times in arm wrestling, but what exactly does it mean?
What do you mean?
Does it simply mean that a press beats a top roll, a hook beats a press, and so on? Well, I don't think so. That's not saying that, generally speaking, a presser can beat a top roller, all else considered, but I think there's a little more nuance to this. And it just so happened that last weekend I was in a tournament where I experienced firsthand the nuances that goes into styles make matches. And of course, I have to preface this by saying that styles make matches only comes into play if both guys are off a similar level. If they're not within the same ballpark, then it's not going to matter what style you're using. But circling back to what I was saying about there being more nuance to this, I believe that it's not the style per se that's important, but the strengths that each individual athlete has access to that is really important. And to simplify what I'm talking about, for this video at least, I'm going to mention just cupping and back pressure. And to show you guys what I mean, I'm going to use the case study of this unsolicited love triangle that I was pulled into at the Singapore Arm Wrestling Open Brawl last weekend. And I think that these are especially good examples because all arm wrestlers involved in this were top rollers. So there are 3 people involved in this: me, Adzhan, and Joe. So I'm going to be showing you guys the matches between each other in the order that they happened in the tournament, starting with me versus Joe. So just a little background between me and Joe. So Joe started arm wrestling about 3-4 years ago. Back when he started, he was already a really strong kid, and I was doing pretty okay at that time. I think I was still the silver medalist for the 78 kilo category back then. And it took Joe about, I think, 2 years of training before he finally beat me. And yeah, I've been playing catch up ever since, and you can see me messing around with him in the setup over here. I know Joe has a really strong cup, and as of late he has developed his back pressure to a pretty solid level. So in the past I could always take advantage of my superior back pressure and just crack his wrist, but lately his wrist has gotten so strong that I have not been able to crack it, and his back pressure is up to a level where it's overwhelming my very limited cup. So I don't really have access to many lanes against him. And the only way that I'm going to be able to catch up to him is if I develop my cup a little bit more. But let's keep watching the video. So over here, getting into the strap, let me skip ahead for you guys. And now going into the setup, we're in the ref's grip. You can see that my arm is a little bit longer, so I'm gonna have to be dropping my riser a little bit. Joe is able to post up a little bit higher. But our hands are about the same length, but his is significantly thicker than mine. And you can see him neutralizing my pronation and back pressure, and then taking full advantage of my weak cup to drag me to the pad. So the next match I want to show you guys, Joe versus Adzhan. And over here, going straight to the strap, Adzhan on the right, Joe on the left. You can see both also still setting up for a top roll. Both of them have pretty similar sized hands, both of them very thick hands. And Joe setting up the same way as he did against me, but you see Adzhan immediately able to take the advantage, securing his cup and full access to his back pressure. And Joe, even though he tried to switch up and dive in with his shoulder a little bit too late to access any of that cup, any of that back pressure. Very unfortunate. And finally, looking at me versus Adzhan. So I'm gonna skip ahead to where we strap up. And now referee Melvin is just gonna be lining up our webbing and everything. You can see both still setting up for a top roll. Even though Adzhan has his leg propped up, he's still gonna be going backwards very, very hard. And boom, Adzhan goes back but doesn't move off the center. You can see my wrist is compromised, cracked back, but not as bad because Adzhan's not able to get his cup to neutralize my back pressure. So we get a reset with Adzhan elbow fouling, I'm gonna fast forward right now to the second ready go. And we're gonna be closing our hands, and boom, same thing, stuck in the center, and my wrist is cracked back, but don't really need much wrist because Adzhan himself doesn't have a strong enough wrist to neutralize my back pressure, unlike Zhu, who has a strong enough wrist, slightly stronger than Adzhan, but that little difference in wrist strength was able to allow him to get full access to the rest of his power, his back pressure, everything else to overwhelm me. So going back to cupping and back pressure, if I were to give each of us numbers on a scale from 1 to 10 arbitrarily, it will look something like I would have 6 cupping and 10 back pressure, Adzhan would have 8 cupping and 9 back pressure, and Zhu would have 9 cupping and 7 back pressure. So me being someone who's almost all in on back pressure, if you have a strong enough cup like Zhu, you can totally neutralize my back pressure enough so that you can take advantage of my weak wrist. If your cup is just a little bit lacking, like in Adzhan's case, then that allows me to access more of my own back pressure, which then allows my back pressure to overwhelm his own back pressure and cup. And that's not to say that Adzhan's cup is weak, because it is still strong enough, as you saw, to neutralize Zhu's back pressure, which then intensifies Adzhan's own back pressure that he can use against Zhu. And this is further intensified by the fact that Adzhan has a bigger and thicker hand than me, which allows him to get away with not needing as much back pressure as me, because Zhu's hand just can't get as good of a grip around the back of Adzhan's hand compared to how Zhu can get his hand around my hand. So I hope those examples help you understand a little bit more where I'm coming from when talking about styles make matches. It's not always about, just top roll versus press versus hook. It really is about the strengths that you have access to. It's not just about how strong you are, but it is how strong you are in relation to your opponent and what you can deny them. So even if your back pressure is not as strong as mine, like in Adzhan's case, if you have a really big and thick hand, that can neutralize some of the cupping power that your opponent has, and vice versa. If thinner hand, they can access more cup, and so on. So bear that in mind. Not always the case where you have to top roll a hooker or hook a presser or anything like that. So moral of the story is just get strong. But jokes aside, thanks for watching the video. Let me know your thoughts on this concept of styles make matches in the comments below. I'll catch you beasts in the next video.